In this tutorial, we're going to look at a second way to send multiple data items from Arduino to processing, and we're going to have them processing handle these as strings. Right? In the previous tutorial, I showed you how to read them in as a string and convert them to integers, but what we're going to have Arduino do now is send everything as a comma delimited string. We'll see how processing can handle that. All right, so let's pop open this processing sketch that comes from the serial event reference page. So processing.org, serial event, that's what we've used in some previous tutorials. All I've done is copied that code into here. All right, we're going to use this then to display what we receive on the screen. The one thing I've done is I've created a different font. So to remind you, you can go to Tools. Well, when this decides to run, you go to Tools, Create Font. Right. If it's your first time working with a sketch, the one from the website has a different font. I happen to choose this one, the Cambria font. So I can simply copy that in here, overwrite that default, or you can choose one from here, change the size to 18. And I paste that in and say OK. Right now when you run that, that will load this particular font. All right, so we've already taken a look at how to open the serial port. We're using the fact that we're going to buffer until we have a line feed character. So that sets the serial port up to create an event after it reads in this line feed character. Here, I'm using a delay of 2 seconds after the setup function simply because my particular Arduino board seems to require that for the connection to processing in order to work correctly. Right. And so all this sketch is going to do, right, is going to show text that the Arduino over here in processing is just going to show the text screen. So we need an Arduino program then to transmit some information. So let's just pop open a new Arduino sketch here. Right. All right, so to set up the serial port, right, serial.begin. The baud rate on the other processing sketch is 9600. We need to make it match, so we'll set that up here at that baud rate. And here, if we just simply say serial.println, right, and we'll just send the message Arduino, right, and we'll just do that, say, once a second. And we did that before, so I'm going to upload to my board. We did this in our previous example just to show that the processing sketch is reading the string correctly. All right, so now if we run processing, all right, we should just see this window pop up, and it's receiving our message Arduino. And it looks like it used a different font for some reason than what I wanted. All right, got my Cambria font now. Still using the other. All right, so all we've done is we sent a simple string. Right. What we'd like to do is we'd like to send some multiple pieces of information. Right. All right, let's create some variables. All right. Maybe I'll make this an unsigned int. Or an unsigned char. I'm going to say data 1. Unsigned char data 2. All right, let's initialize data 1 to 0, data 2 to 255. And over here now, let's say serial.print data 1, right. Serial.print println data 2. All right. I want to show you what this looks like if we print it just like this. We'll increment data 1. As we go through here, we'll decrement data 2 simply so we can see some different numbers. All right, let me upload that to the board. All right, so we're going to print out data 1. Now that integer will have no separation from data 2. So all we're going to do over here, once again, is take a look at the string that's being transmitted. Right. So notice that looks like just one really long line. This first one is data 1. It should still be single digits. We can see it counting up. The second one is data 2. We want to separate that. Right. Over here, then, what if we said, well, serial.print and sent a comma separator? Right. Upload that. Run this. And now we can see the separation of the comma of the two pieces of data. Right. So now let's take a look at what we can do to separate out those two pieces of data from the string, because right now this is all an int string. Right. And I'm going to pop open processing website here. So if you go to processing.org and on the reference page, then I've gone to the split function. Split is a function that will take a string. So in this example, here's a comma delimited string of 3 names. Right? The name of the string is called men. This is going to create an empty string list of strings, so a string array. It's going to split men up into individual strings, and this is the delimiter here. This is every time you find a comma, then separate out everything before the comma into a string. So Chernenko gets put into a string, Andropov gets put into a second string, and Brezhnev gets put into a third string in the list. So we can do the same thing. You can split up a string full of numbers, right? The thing is we're going to look for a comma delimiter, and you can use any character you want as the delimiter, right? So here's what we're going to do then in processing with our sketch. All right. Let me minimize the Arduino. All right. We're going to split the comma delimited string. All right. So we're going to need then to create that list. You don't have to call it list. So data type is string, empty brackets say give me an array, name it list. We'll call the split function. We're going to pass it in string, and then we're going to tell it that our delimiter, so then is a comma. Sorry, I was looking at the warning message saying list is not used. We're going to use it now. And what we want to do is we need to know how long the list is, right? How many items are in there? And what we'll do then is we'll also, let's print out then list. We're going to print out everything in the list. I might need to use print array for that. And list length, append or concatenate to that string list.length, so it actually has a length property. And print ln, oh, got an extra L. All right. All right. And we can see then in string still, here's our comma delimited list, we can see that we're getting a length of 2 down here. And yes, when I print list, it's just printing the reference. Oh, why don't I say print list? It's print, so there's no new line. And I think there's a print array function, where I can just print what's in there. All right, and then let's maybe slow down the Arduino side to 5 seconds so we can better see what's popping up in the console, either that or I could use the no loop function. But let's slow down the Arduino transmission. And now, all right, there's our list of serial ports. All right, so listed index 0 is the number 0, index 1 is 255. Right, our list length is 2. All right, and you can see then these are strings, right? The strings are changing. All right, so now we split that up and we know the length. Well, we could use that then from the Arduino side. We could write an if statement based on the length. We could say something, actually, what we want to say is something like if in string is not equal to null. All right, we want to make sure there's data in there. If that's true, then let's go ahead and split the list up. And then we can say if list.length is greater than 1, meaning we have at least 2. Now let's then create some variables. Let's work with, let's see, unsigned int. Oh, sorry, Java doesn't like unsigned, so we're just going to go with int. And we'll say angle, and we'll say radius. And by default, Java will initialize those to 0, just doing it there so it's explicit. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to now say, let's read the first one in as an angle. We're just going to say angle. We're going to assign to that then list at index 0. And we're going to say radius is equal to list at index 1. Now, those are still going to be strings. So let's convert that to an integer. And okay, so I still need to terminate that. Now, it's not the best idea. I was printing things from here. Let's just go ahead and show in string. let's go ahead and print the values of print angle. All right, that string, append to that the variable plus radius. Concatenator, append to that. Turn the integer into a string. And let's only print that when we have some new data. So we're going to say if data received, we're going to create a Boolean to handle that. Up here then, we'll initialize data received to false because we haven't received any data when this program starts. And here now, when this is not null, we'll say data received equals true. All right, here, after we print this, let's set data received back to false, simply because we're just using this flag to control when we print. All right. Actually, all right, so let's run this now. Convert from string to, oh yeah, I forgot to convert this to an int. All right, I forgot then to call int and create an object of type int there. And so no, we're not getting anything for radius. All right, so what was in list 1? I guess I shouldn't have commented that out. Oh, that new line character is in there. Forgot to trim that. All right. Let's trim out. All right. So that new line character was popping up. I hadn't trimmed that out. That was a problem. It was appended to the end of this last string. I hadn't called the trim function. Remember, the trim removes all white space, so that removed the new line character. So put a comment, must trim last element in list to remove the line feed character. All right. Oh. So now we should be able to use that information to draw. And let's just go ahead, pop up our Arduino sketch here. We had data 1 and data 2. Let's just start making this say angle and radius. All right. And here now, we'll set angle equal to 0. Let's say radius equal to, let's give it a constant value of 100 for right now. And now let's transmit angle. Let's transmit radius. And let's increment angle here. Let's keep radius constant. Let's go to twice a second here. And over here, now let's take angle and radius and end up drawing something. Oh, here, I still have the port. All right. Well, let's increase our window size a little bit. Now let's draw a line. So let's create then a couple variables. Let's say int ax, ay, bx, by. And now center a coordinates. So we're going to put the a coordinates in the center of the window. So ax is going to be equal to width divided by 2. Ay is going to be equal to height divided by 2. And now let's calculate bx, by. Right. So bx is going to be equal to ax plus the radius times, now we're sending everything in integers, so the units over in Arduino here, I should have made a note. Let's say that these units are degrees. Right. Here. And I'm going to call cosine of theta, but when cosine expects radians, I'm going to call the radians function. And here I called it angle, not theta, right? Angle. All right, so we'll convert that angle to radians, pass it to the cosine function. Right, this is going to give us the x coordinate, and then bx needs to be offset by ax, and by then is simply going to be ay, simply because I want the window, center of the window, to be the origin. If I say radius times the sine of now radians angle, right, and now if we draw a line, so the stroke color of the line, let's just use the color selector tool, right? Let's go for, how about that color? And let's maybe set this to 3 pixels and see how that looks. And we'll draw a line now from ax to ay, bx to by. We run this, and okay, missing. Where am I missing a semicolon? Oh, these expect floats. So I can cast that to a float. If I do that, except now bx and by are, let me make those floats as well. I think. All right. I had one too many parentheses. All right. right, so here's my angle and my constant length, right? And we can see that the line is slowly rotating down here in the y direction, right? Y is increasing, so I'm seeing this in the bottom half, right? And I could clean this up a little bit, right? Instead of a black background, maybe a white background. Right, now the fill color of the text, well, there should be something other than white so we can see it. All right, let's speed this up over here to 10 times a second. And now we can see our line moving a little bit faster, right? The angle changing. All right, so what we did was we were able to read the serial information in with this comma delimited string. Right. In this case, I converted it to integers. You can convert these to floats if you're working with them as floats, right? Which might have been better here for this, right? I could just go ahead and say this was a floating point type, interpret it as that. So if that's the case, then you don't have to create an object there of that type. Right? Get rid of one of those parentheses. But that means down here, instead of casting this to an int, I should cast this to a float. Right. And we're still getting the same behavior, except now it's treating this as a floating point number. You can do the same with radius as well. All right. That should help you out then with a second example of how to transmit information. Right, you can transmit then multiple values separated by commas. Right. This then showed you how to parse them out with a split function. Right. Check their length, and then you know then which one in the list is the angle and which one is the radius because you're controlling what you're transmitting over here. Right. Hopefully that will help you with your homework assignments.